in this project, he was looking at pathways involved in addiction and rewards. But I just was struck by this when I saw it, of how cool this seems, and I thought it might be interesting to share with you guys and thinking about what you want to do for the future. There's a lot of really interesting new technologies that are available for doing neuroscience research. And by the way, please interrupt me anywhere along the line if you have any questions. So this is kind of our mission. It's fairly typical of most institutions. We want to provide excellent academic and research training and help our students become future leaders in the neuroscience community. Just a little bit about our program in general. We currently have 111 training faculty. There are 72 students. 11 of those are MD, PhD students. And this year we've had 14 students get their PhD so far, although one got it today and one got it yesterday, so those numbers might have to be adjusted a bit. But anyway, that's roughly where we are in terms of current students, and we graduate about what we take in. We're a little bit lower than normal. We're usually up closer to around 80, but that's kind of about our maintenance level. Because we cover 111 different faculty members, that represents 22 different departments in 5 different schools across the campus. So there's a lot of different types of research being done, everything from very molecular, looking at the biochemistry of particular proteins, up to translational, where people are doing, for example, they're studying deep brain stimulation in patients with Parkinson's and trying to understand why that helps. There's, for example, some recent evidence that it actually helps to intervene at very early stages so that people don't progress as quickly as they would if they didn't have the deep brain stimulation. So anyway, there's a wide breadth of different types of research here, ranging from very basic molecular stuff all the way up through clinical. Vanderbilt has basically since about 2000 invested very heavily in neuroscience research. They've provided resources for a lot of new facilities and equipment, and help with recruiting new faculty. Just 2 years ago, we recruited a new director, Lisa Monteja, who has taken over the helm of the Brain Institute, which is kind of an umbrella that covers all neuroscience at Vanderbilt. And so they've obviously made her an attractive offer to come here and provided her with some resources for hiring new faculty and developing new programs. One of the things that's a little bit frustrating for us is that we're not a department, we're a program. So we're not even included in some of the rankings. So if you go to like US News World Report, you won't even see us there because we're not a department. But if you go by some of the metrics that they use to rank programs and departments, in some rankings where they include programs, we consistently rank among the top 10 or so nationally. Some of you are looking at this number and thinking, oh, come on, Bruce, 2012, that's a little bit dated, isn't it? Well, I still want to hang on to this for a little bit because 2012 was the first year the Society for Neuroscience gave a Graduate Program of the Year award, and we were very proud to get the very first one. So I'm going to keep showing that because we're pretty proud of that. So as I mentioned, Vanderbilt is very broad in its different approaches to research. And these are a few different areas where we have strength. We, a few years ago, decided to kind of group faculty based on their interest roughly into these different areas. It's not exclusive, so I'm in, for example, the neurodegeneration section as well as the developmental neuroscience group. But what this was meant to do is help foster interactions and discussions so that people could see what other people are doing and we have like subgroup meetings, well, virtual meetings and discussions at this point. And that helped foster some interactions. In fact, some training grants came out of that. I'll go into this in a bit more in a second, about a training grant on the neuroscience of addiction.
Dr. Carter, excuse me?
Yes?
I think we can't see your slides moving. We're still seeing your initial slide.
Okay. Well, thank you for pointing that out. So did you guys get to see the movie?
I don't know. At
No.
least
No.
Okay, can you see a brain on the screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show it again just because I think this is so cool. So can you see it now?
Yeah. Now we can see it.
Okay. So this is, again, just using this method called clarity, labeling these pathways in the brain. And as I said, this is what one of our students was working on, to map out some of these addiction circuits. And the resolution of this is pretty remarkable, as you'll see when he zooms in here on the cortex in a second. He was trying to find different regions in the cortex where some of these pathways connect. Okay. Anyway, so that gives you that. And then I talked about our mission. Here's some of our numbers. And let's see. Then I was talking about our research themes here, and how this was designed to foster interaction. And what you can see is this is some of the different areas where Vanderbilt has strengths. Every program and department has different strengths, and these are some of the ones that we wanted to highlight. And one of the things I think is really special about Vanderbilt is the very collaborative nature of it. I'm sure every institution is going to tell you they're collaborative. Nobody's going to say we all hate each other, but in my experience, I've visited a number of places and been in a few different institutions, and it is really remarkable how collaborative people are here and willing to share resources like equipment into their own labs, or I've had people like drop what they were doing and have their research assistants help out with projects that we were interested in. It's really remarkably collaborative. And one of the things that leads to, besides training grants, as I mentioned, is the development of some of these different institutes within the neuroscience purview. For example, that training grant on addiction biology led to Vanderbilt Center for Addiction Research, VCAR. That's one of our newest institutes. There's an Institute of Imaging Science with advanced like MRI machines and different types of imaging, mostly for humans, but we also have small animal imaging. The Vision Center, there's a Center for Drug Discovery, which is a massive enterprise here with development of therapeutics for things like Alzheimer's disease, and the Kennedy Center for Human Development. Part of our mission in the graduate program is to foster outreach, and this is quite important to us. So we have students that go into local schools and make presentations. We work with teachers. For example, sometimes you'll have high school teachers that do rotations over the summer in different labs. And of course, like many neuroscience programs, we have a brain blast. We have a brain awareness month. And one of the things we do is this brain blast where we set up a bunch of different booths and invite in the community to come and sort of experience neuroscience, which you can see here. We often get as many as 800 people coming in, mostly families with their kids, but plenty of adults really enjoy the experience as well. One of the other things that we did a few years ago was this Music in the Mind program. We are in Music City after all, and so we wanted to highlight the neuroscience research that is being done to understand how music impacts our cognitive function. And this has actually expanded. We now have several faculty that do this kind of research, and there is a separate program, well, not totally separate, but a program within the neuroscience program at Vanderbilt that looks into the effects of music on cognitive development, and as well on sort of how creativity is generated in the brain. One of the other things I wanted to emphasize is that we have here an initiative for maximizing student diversity, IMSD program. So this is an NIH-funded program, started in 2000 with an NIH grant, and the institution has continued to support this as well as the NIH. We feel this is quite important for fostering students who are underrepresented traditionally in the biomedical sciences. So it's really based on sort of a peer mentoring system where students will mentor each other, and they provide feedback. They have their journal clubs and research presentations with the IMSD students. And one of the things we were really trying to do is have students have a chance to interact with other students from similar backgrounds, so they can talk about their experiences at Vanderbilt and you know, how to make the most of the whole graduate experience. They also do a bunch of social activities, whitewater rafting and hiking and things like that. It's really a way to help these students navigate the graduate program and provide additional resources for them, if they choose, of course. We also are really proud of our efforts at trying to provide career education for our students. You know, we're not, traditionally, the graduate programs have focused on training scientists to work in the lab, which is great. But there's a much broader career training that's needed. I can say from my own experience, you know, I certainly learned how to be a bench scientist, but now I manage a lab. So I have a budget, I have people. So I have to learn management skills and financial skills. And these things I was never taught. So now we're trying to teach people some of these alternative types of things outside of the lab. They also provide some training on other career alternatives. So, you know, you're going to be exposed to lots of people doing academic research, but through the Aspire program, they also bring in people who've done a number of other types of careers, from scientific writing to consulting, things like that. And they work with the students to try and help them develop a resume that's specific for the type of career they want to go into. Like if you want to go into academics, it's completely different than if you want to go into, let's say, consulting. And you really have to learn how to interview and design your resume in a way that fits that need. And so they will help you with that. And not only that, they also will use their network of alumni, which is pretty extensive, to help connect students and get them job opportunities. So speaking of jobs, what do our students go on to do? Well, many do postdocs. I'll give you the numbers in a minute. Some go on to teach at small liberal arts colleges. A number go into different aspects of industry, biotech, big pharma. Some go into consulting, publishing, government, whether it's, you know, in the patent office, things like that, NIH. So this is a breakdown. So here are the positions that students take right after they graduate. And you can see that the numbers are based on 134 of our recent graduates. So 75% of them go into research, and that, as you can see down here, is in academia. We also have some that go straight into for-profit. Like I said, they could be in consulting. One of my students actually graduated and is working in New York City at Guggenheim Bank. And what he does is he helps investors make decisions about neuroscience companies that are trying to attract investors for their latest product. So there's a number of different options people have as careers, and as you can see, the majority of them go on to do postdocs. And then this is what people are doing after their training. So in other words, after their postdoc, what are their first like real career? And it breaks down about 47% are still doing academia. So these would be, you know, professors or starting assistant professors, or almost an equal amount that are in the for-profit sector. And then there's some that are doing more administrative things, like the nonprofit that could be working for some of these foundations, like Muscular Dystrophy Association or something, where they're using their scientific expertise in that way. So why Vanderbilt? Let me move this for a minute.